You are gripping the ghost of yesterday's pain. Right now, in this very moment, you are clutching at energy that has already dissolved into the void. You are holding conversations with people who have forgotten you exist. You are nursing wounds that have already healed themselves, feeding scars that have already transformed into wisdom. The anger you carry like a sacred relic? It left your body hours ago. The betrayal that burns in your chest like an eternal flame? It moved through your nervous system like lightning and departed. The sadness that you think defines the very essence of who you are? It was meant to be a visitor, not a permanent resident in the temple of your soul. But you invited it to stay. You built it a shrine in the sanctuary of your heart. You feed it daily with your attention, your stories, your precious suffering. You tend to it like a devoted priest tending to a dying god. You are a curator of dead energy, a keeper of expired emotions, a guardian of ghosts that have no substance. You are a museum of feelings that no longer exist anywhere but in the theater of your mind. And you call this loyalty. You call this depth. You call this being human. You call this love. But what if I told you that your greatest act of betrayal is not against those who have wronged you, but against the living, breathing, pulsing river of your own being? What if I told you that every moment you spend in the past is a moment stolen from the present? What if I told you that you are suffocating the very life force that wants to move through you like wind through an open field? They taught you that holding on was noble, that forgetting was the ultimate betrayal. From the earliest days of your childhood, they whispered to you like ancient priests sharing sacred secrets. Don't forget. Remember what they did to you. Honor your pain. Keep the flame of your hurt burning bright. Never let them off the hook. Never let yourself off the hook. Your mother held grudges like family heirlooms, passing them down through generations like precious jewelry. Your father carried resentment like a badge of honor, wearing his wounds like medals of war. Your teachers rewarded you for remembering every slight, every injustice, every moment when the world failed to bend to your will. The culture around you celebrated the victims, the wounded, the ones who never forgot. They made heroes out of those who could recite their pain word for word, chapter and verse like scripture. They gave awards to those who could turn their suffering into art, their trauma into identity, their wounds into weapons. They convinced you that forgetting was weakness, that moving on meant you didn't care enough, that releasing was the same as surrender. They told you that if you let go, you would be dishonoring those who hurt you. They told you that if you forgave, you would be betraying yourself. So you learned to build monuments to your suffering. You learned to worship at the altar of your own victimhood. You learned to mistake stagnation for loyalty, obsession for love, clinging for caring. You learned to confuse the preservation of pain with the preservation of self. And now you are drowning in the very emotions you were taught to treasure. Now you are suffocating under the weight of feelings you were told to never let go. You wake up exhausted because you spent the night arguing with phantoms, fighting battles that ended years ago. You cannot taste your food because you are still chewing on conversations from 3 years ago, still digesting conflicts that have long since been resolved by everyone but you. You cannot see the sunrise because you are staring into the darkness of wounds that have already transformed into wisdom, but you refuse to see the light. Your nervous system is a prisoner of your own stories. Your body is paying the price for your mind's refusal to let the river flow. Your heart is withering because you have made it a mausoleum instead of a garden. Listen closely to the truth that your bones already know, that your cells remember, that your soul has never forgotten. Energy is not meant to be stored. It is not meant to be hoarded. It is not meant to be preserved like specimens in formaldehyde. It is meant to move, like water seeking the ocean, like wind dancing with the trees, like the blood in your veins carrying life to every corner of your being. It lives in movement, dies in stillness. The ancient wisdom speaks of this flow as the very essence of life itself. In Sanskrit, they call it prana, the life force that animates all existence, the breath that moves through all things. In Chinese philosophy, it is qi, the energy that flows through all things when they are in harmony with their nature. when they are not fighting against the current of their own existence. In the mystical traditions of every culture, there is this understanding. Life is movement. Life is flow. Life is the constant dance between holding and releasing, between breathing in and breathing out, between contraction and expansion. But you have become a dam in the river of your own existence. You have become a blockage in the very system that is meant to nourish you. Every emotion that enters your system is meant to be a messenger, not a resident. Every feeling that arises in the landscape of your consciousness is meant to deliver its message and then dissolve back into the vast ocean of awareness from which it came. Anger comes to show you where your boundaries have been crossed, where your power has been compromised. Sadness comes to honor what you have loved and lost, to connect you to the preciousness of what matters. Fear comes to alert you to danger, to activate your wisdom and your caution. Joy comes to celebrate the beauty of being alive, to remind you of the gift of existence. They arrive like messengers from the depths of your being. They deliver their message. They transform into wisdom. They move on. This is their nature. This is their purpose. This is their gift. This is the natural order of things. This is how energy flows through a system that trusts itself, that honors its own intelligence, that does not interfere with its own healing. This is how you were designed to operate before you learned to hoard feelings like a miser hoards gold, before you learned to treat emotions like possessions that could be owned. But you turned your body into a graveyard of expired emotions. You turned your mind into a prison where old energies pace back and forth, wearing grooves in the floor of your consciousness. You turned your heart into a museum where dead feelings are displayed like artifacts from a life that no longer exists. Now, I offer you a different kind of strength, a different kind of loyalty, a different kind of love, a different way of being human that does not require you to carry the weight of the world on your shoulders. What if your greatest act of courage was not holding on, but letting go? What if your deepest expression of love was not clinging, but releasing? What if your truest form of loyalty was not to your wounds, but to your wholeness? What if the most profound way to honor your experiences was to allow them to transform you, and then release them into the vastness from which they came? What if the highest form of respect for your journey was to let it change you without letting it define you? Imagine this. You feel anger, and instead of feeding it stories, instead of building a case, instead of rehearsing your arguments, you feel it fully. You let it burn through your body like a cleansing fire. You let it show you where your power lies, where your boundaries need to be drawn. You thank it for its message. And then you let it go. Not because you are weak, but because you are strong enough to trust the process. Not because you don't care, but because you care enough to let the energy transform. You feel sadness, and instead of building a monument to your loss, instead of turning it into a shrine, you let it wash through you like rain. You let it cleanse. You soften you, connect you to the vast ocean of human experience. You let it remind you that you have loved, that you have cared, that you have been truly alive. And then you release it, not because you don't care, but because you care enough to let love transform into gratitude, loss into appreciation, pain into wisdom. You feel fear, and instead of letting it paralyze you, instead of letting it make you smaller, you listen to its message. You use it to sharpen your awareness, to activate your wisdom, to connect you to your instinct for self-preservation. And then you let it go. Not because you are reckless, but because you are wise enough to know that fear is meant to be a visitor, not a permanent resident. This is the new virtue, the courage to feel everything and cling to nothing, the strength to be fully present with what is, without making it into what defines you. The wisdom to let energy move through you like water through a clear channel, like light through a pure crystal, like wind through an open field. This is the strength that comes not from holding tight, but from holding lightly, not from controlling the river, but from learning to swim with its current, not from fighting the waves, but from learning to dance with them. You become like the sun, giving light not because you must, not because you are trying to prove something, but because it is your nature. You become like the ocean, receiving all rivers without being changed by any single drop, vast enough to hold everything without being defined by anything. You become like the sky, spacious enough to hold every cloud, patient enough to let every storm pass through, eternal enough to remain unchanged by the temporary weather of emotions. But even this new way of being, even this flowing, this releasing, this graceful dancing with energy, even this must die. Even this understanding must dissolve. Even this wisdom must return to the mystery from which it came. There comes a moment in the journey of awakening when you must let go of letting go, when you must release even your attachment to release, when you must become so deeply rooted in the silence of your being that you no longer need to manage energy at all. In that silence, you discover something that shatters every concept you have ever held about yourself. You are not the emotions that flow through you. You are not the energy that moves through your system. You are not even the one who chooses to hold on or let go. You are not the curator, not the museum, not the artifacts, not the visitor. You are the space in which all of this happens. You are the awareness that watches the river flow without being carried away by its current. You are the consciousness that observes the dance of energy without being disturbed by its movements. You are the eternal witness to the temporary play of form and emptiness, of contraction and expansion, of holding and releasing. You are the silence that holds all sound. You are the stillness that contains all movement. You are the emptiness that gives birth to all fullness. You are the darkness that makes light possible. You are the nothing that allows everything to be. In this silence, you find the deepest rest, not the exhaustion of someone who has fought and won, but the peace of someone who has discovered they were never at war, not the relief of someone who has finally let go, but the recognition that there was never anything to hold on to in the first place. Not the satisfaction of someone who has mastered the art of release, but the understanding that there was never anyone to master anything. This is the maturity of the soul, to know when to engage and when to withdraw, when to flow and when to be still, when to dance with energy, and when to rest in the vast emptiness that gives birth to all energy. To know when to be someone and when to be no one. To know when to care and when to rest in the space that is beyond all caring. This is the ultimate teaching. Even your awakening must die. Even your wisdom must dissolve. Even your perfect understanding must return to the mystery from which it came. Even your identity as someone who has learned to let go must be released into the vastness that knows no identity at all. In the end, there is only silence. In the end, there is only space. In the end, there is only the vast, eternal, unchanging awareness that you have always been, that you will always be, that you can never not be. So I ask you now in this moment, with the weight of eternity pressing against your chest, are you ready to stop being a museum of dead energy? Are you ready to stop being a curator of expired emotions? Are you ready to stop being a prisoner of your own stories? Are you ready to trust the river of your own being? Are you ready to let yesterday's emotions return to yesterday, and tomorrow's worries stay in tomorrow, and this moment's feelings flow through you like water through a clear channel, like light through pure space, like wind through an open field? Are you ready to discover who you are when you are not defined by what you carry? Are you ready to find out what remains when everything that is not you falls away? Are you ready to rest in the silence that has always been your true home? If something in you says yes, if something in you recognizes this truth like a long-lost friend, then write these words in the comments, not as a casual gesture, but as a sacred commitment to the deepest part of yourself. I am the space where energy flows freely. Write them not as a promise to me, but as a commitment to the river of your own life. Write them as a declaration of trust in the wisdom of your own system. Write them as a key to unlock the prison you have built from expired emotions. Write them as a doorway into the vast freedom that has always been your birthright. And then step into the current. Feel what you feel without making it into a story. Honor what you honor without making it into an identity. Love what you love without making it into a cage. And let it all move through you, like light through water, like wind through trees, like life through the eternal dance of being and becoming. The river is waiting. It has always been waiting. It will always be waiting. It is patient like the ocean, constant like the sky, eternal like the space in which all things arise and pass away. The only question now is, will you finally trust it to carry you home? Will you finally let yourself be carried by the current that has always been flowing toward your freedom? Will you finally let go of the shore and discover that you were never separate from the water at all? The choice is yours. The river is here. The freedom is now. What will you choose?